Last but by no means least, our keynote speaker, this is Neil, and he's a project manager. Yay for the project managers. And so he's going to talk to you about managing mega projects, giving a high-level view about what it is to be a project manager in this sort of mega project environment. And some good take-home comments from him. So I'll leave it up to you.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. So I hear you stayed over in London, and none of you got a hangover. That's unlike students that I'm aware of. So fair play to you. Hopefully you can remedy that this evening. Yeah, I'm a project manager with Crossrail. I've worked with Crossrail for almost 6 years. There's 4 key projects I've been involved with. At Plumstead there's a remediation project, and there was also tunnelling under the Thames, which we call the Thames Tunnel. And then lastly I've got 2 projects now. One is intermediate shafts, which is 5 shaft sites throughout the eastern part of the Crossrail programme. And I've also got a big portal at Puddingley Lane. So I have got some experience. I was thinking how to pitch this at 4:30. I'm actually a wee bit tired. So I'm trying to keep this high level. There's a theme going through this, which is culture. And I would like to dwell on that at the end, take questions towards the end. So please, culture is a difficult thing to define, but that's the theme I'm trying to get at through this presentation. So, 4 or 5 key areas. We're going to look at the vision. We need a vision. All major projects need to have a vision. The end result, how do you sell that vision? Then slightly moving from one side of the brain to the other, structure. I wouldn't say Crossrail's got a perfect structure. We're kind of almost given the structure. But then you have to mould the best deliverance of Crossrail within that structure. Talk a bit about that. Project manager is all about getting there to the end, and then doing so continually through improvement. I'll talk about some themes there, how we've certainly taken that forward. I've got a couple of examples. And the lastly, celebrate success. It's a continual thing. We don't always reflect on things well done, and it's something that maybe you guys do. Certainly from our side, it is to celebrate the success point. So, Crossrail is a pretty big project. I'm one of about 10 or 15 project managers, and that really makes up the rest of the projects. It's a big cake and it's sliced 10 to 15 ways. And then the project manager is responsible for everything for that project, as well as the interfaces between projects. So it's single point responsibility. So you can't escape. And I've just come from a programme board meeting with about 10 directors lined up on one side of the table, and me and a commercial fella from my team. And we have to stand and fall by our performance in the last 4 weeks. These meetings happen every 4 weeks. But essentially that's how the structure is set up. But it's enriching. I tell you, when it goes well, it's fantastic. So, I am, essentially, there's not one project manager, it's 10 to 15. I just ask you to bear that in mind. The first thing is, what's the vision? The vision isn't necessarily this cavern, or this, which looks like an adit that's going to be one of the station sites. But you've got to continually get the vision across to people. The vision ultimately is 2018, which is these trains firing through our tunnels, 1,500 people per train every 4 minutes or thereabouts. You've got to keep building on the vision throughout. How do we do that? We've got some wonderful photographs. This is just one. And you keep selling the fact that things are happening. People then think, I want to be part of this project. This looks really glamorous. I am meeting new and exciting people. I'm part of something that can deliver that. That's probably taken, I don't know, 10,000 person hours to achieve. It's a small part of CrossShare. Whenever you see these snippets, you think, wow, that's something I want to be part of. And that is an aspect of culture. Another picture, this is at Stepney. Crossrail, I don't know if you remember from one of the previous slides, but obviously it goes from west to east. And there's a fork in the middle at Stepney, and Stepney is one of the complicated sites. So we've created a big old cavern. And this has all been dug out and lined with sprayed concrete lining, and that shows you scale. It's enormous, absolutely enormous. And it's fantastic. This is, I guess, a point here of scale, a point here of recognising people. These are the guys that have actually created the cavern using machinery, of course. Again, it's an aspect of just dropping in vision continually as you go. This is the end game. God has set out your end game. As a project manager, if you don't know the end game, you're not sure where you're taking things. It's all about the end game and how you get there. The end game is these fantastic trains that I'm sure will be really comfortable. But it's more about that. It's also about the experience. So these are stations. You can actually go and visit Canary Wharf station at the moment. You can actually go and sit in a garden on the top of Canary Wharf station. So you always got about some interest in the end game as well. There's something that keeps people being bound to CrossShare, and that's what this is all about. So please, if I can offer you one thing, it is know the end game and then work back. And that is kind of one of the lessons I've learned throughout my journey as well. Another aspect of delivering CrossShare is the structure. This is the structure that we've got, CrossShare being right in the middle. CrossShare gets its money from multiple sources, but principally from public sector. Some money from the DFT and TfL, so that's governmental, and that's the Mayor of London. But it gets, and probably one of the earliest questions that was asked of CrossShare was one of competency. How are we going to bring in everybody to do this? Now, as it happens, we bring in our key people from a number of resources. CrossShare is essentially an SPV. It's only here for a finite period. Come 2018, come 2019, it'll start to dissolve. It's just like the Olympics. Realised that we needed to source competency from a number of specialist entities. So we brought in a couple of programme partners. We've got a delivery partner, which is made up of a joint venture of 3 companies, and a programme partner as well. We realised, rather than go through a huge recruitment process wherein you bring in about 1,000 to 1,500 people, which is a huge tool in itself, exercise in itself, you actually outsource. You pay a bit more, but you bring in instant expertise. That was a conscious decision made. And it's that balancing of cost, benefit. But that's another feature of being a project manager. The entity, the structure here, I said earlier, it's not perfect. We've got essentially 2 reporting bodies, which is both governmental, and you both need to sort of satisfy the twin-headed heater, shall we say. And that has taken time for us to get our reporting right. But you've got to just review. You can't change those constraints, you just got to learn to work within those constraints. So it's not just those 2, we've got some huge, tricky and stakeholders here. And we have to understand their needs and wants. They at all times want to keep running their own infrastructure. LU, DLR, Network Rail, Canary Wharf Group, and Barclay Homes. That's another constraint known early on. Know what your stakeholders want, and then create a model around them. Know that London Underground want to keep functioning, the general public want to keep functioning throughout our refurb and accept that sometimes you have to go down the slightly more cost option to manage reputation. Because as soon as you stop services in these entities, you'll get the banners up from London Underground saying, well, due to caution works, the service isn't running for the next 2 months. And reputation is a key thing. I ask you just to reflect on that. The next level below this is essentially how all the directorships sit together. We've got, it's what's called a matrix, where you've got a delivery arm going down here, so all the 15 project managers, 10 to 15 project managers are all here, and they're all responsible for their geographical patch. And then on the other side, you've got support. But support is another term for, in some ways, challenge, check and balance. It's a huge function. If you just let project managers run the show, you're going to end up not necessarily with the product you wish. Because project managers want to get the thing done, get it over the line. These people are here, for example, to make sure quality is delivered to the right, make sure it's built within budget. There always has to be check and balance against the people who are driving the project forward. Don't get me wrong, I strive for the best product, the most cost-efficient solution, the most timely solution, above all, the most safe solution. But sometimes you can't get locked in to your project, and the check and balance allows for proper discussion throughout the project. If you're setting up a structure to deliver, this is it. Bear that in mind. And this is a sample of a team. This was my team from the 10 Strong project about 18 months ago. It's a decent sized team. It's got health and safety, and it's got commercial, construction, and quality engineering, and then the sort of engineering management, the evolution of the product. As a project manager, you have to learn, you don't have to be an expert in all disciplines. In fact, the key thing is know your strengths, know your weakness, be more self-aware about your weakness, and make sure you've got a strong person covering your weakness. As soon as you realise that you don't have to be an expert, it becomes easier. You start to rely, you start to delegate, and that's where you need to be as a project manager. The other feature of this is these people come from all over the place. I've got some Crosshare employees, I've got some PDP employees, I've got some subcontractors. They're all multicultural, all from all sorts of backgrounds. Current team, I've got probably about 8 nationalities out of 25. As a project manager, you can't have people that just fit your own profile. You've got to draw in resources from all over the place. It's amazing what ideas come out of that. I mean, it's not easy to manage at times, don't get me wrong, but it's having diversity helps you become better and more wider thinking as a result. Another facet of the role of PM is improvements. You've probably heard from how we manage programs, how we manage risk, innovations. As a project manager, we're all slightly competitive, and it's okay to be competitive. And you always want to be keeping moving and improving how the project is performing. The key parameters that we are certainly tasked upon is safety, time, budget. The World Class covers a multitude of things, primarily quality, but then some of the softer stuff. You may have heard about apprenticeships, social sustainability, environmental, there's a subject, and there's all different aspects. And they're the 4 key questions I'm asked in front of the Programme Delivery Board. which the directors all ask about. Well, how are you doing there, Neil? How are you satisfying that? Where do you need to concentrate on in the next 1, 2, 3 periods? That is how you, certainly from a Crossrail perspective, is how we sort of define success against those 4 questions. It's not only about those 4 questions, so I tell you, stakeholders and community. It's amazing with the advent of social media how sensitive and how quickly a negative social media issue triggers a reaction. So I had one 2 months ago. It was a tweet going into DLR, and the tweet was, there's a puddle outside your DLR station where my site's just located. And the tweet goes in, and DLR get it, and DLR go, can't have this. So I got a very strong email from somebody very senior in DLR saying, is this puddle caused by you, Crossrail? If so, what are you doing about it? Well, actually, it wasn't if so, it is what are you doing about it? You have to keep on top of the reputation of the project and managing stakeholders who are uber sensitive about things that maybe aren't on your horizon. If you start to learn about your stakeholder and what makes them tick, it helps no end. The last point, just to dwell upon, is contractors' behaviours. I work for project manager for Crossrail. My counterpart is the project director for the contractor. I've got several of those. Contractors, by and large, want to make money. And it's okay to say that. They want to leave a strong product. They want to keep people safe. They want to do their best. They have bad days. They're not perfect. It's a matter of keeping, my role is a matter of keeping them in the straight and narrow. Know their behaviours, understand their behaviours, understand where they're coming from. You can't make life easy for them. If they have a bad day, deliver a poor product, they have to be told. They have to be told in a way that keeps them motivated to make good, which may be at their own expense. It's an interesting concept to sort of manage, and it's one of my chief challenges, is trying to find that balance between delivering encouraging news, delivering forthright news, but keeping the contractor looking forward and keeping them positive and doing stuff they don't necessarily want to do. There's no secret. All I say is communication certainly helps, not dodging the issues. Another way of driving improvement, I suppose it's a function of yourselves. At the end of the day, you'll get a pass, a distinction, and so forth. But we set up, we've got about 50, in this example we had 17 contractors running. And somebody had really clever, simple idea of creating a league table of performance, covering 6 key aspects of a contractor's performance: health and safety, quality, commercial, environmental, social sustainability, community relations. And then they went out, scored our contractors, and then had the galling idea of publishing the scores. Now they at least didn't put names against them, but they put numbers. And I tell you what, peer pressure works a treat with contractors. It's about like project managers, a little bit competitive, they want to do as well as possible. I find this a wonderful tool to get the best out of your contractor. I struggled with this slide. What I wanted to do was round 2 to round 3. Because actually from round 2, there's the round 2. Round 1 average was there, round 2 average was there, and round 3 average was in this sort of quadrant there. It's amazing how you set the standard, encourage them to go beyond the standard, to put in discretionary effort to think of best practice, to go beyond just what's in the contract. And the best way of doing that is peer pressure. That's where I've seen it. And this has been a wonderful tool for Crossrail. We can certainly share with you more information on this. It's just something to bear in mind. from your aspect, I don't know what happens, how you get all your results published, but I know when I was going through university, I certainly didn't want to be in the lower half. If I could, I would try and be as high up as possible. It's the same mentality. It's all about getting into the psyche of what a contractor's thinking of. You've another way to drive improvement. There's a few. Can you just flick it 2 or 3 more just to get through the slides? Innovation. We have a number of Crossrail procedures. I wouldn't say they're the most inspiring procedures, but it's a way of saying to get from A to B, provide the necessary governance. Certainly from a project manager perspective, I challenge the team to think, can it be done better? Can we do it quicker? What don't we need to do? Do we have to consult with all these people? Who's the key players you have to consult with? Can you make the process slicker? Can the contractor come up with innovative ideas? At the end of the day, there's a pretty mature market out there where they're all peddling products. And the products, let's be positive, let's say the products are all well-meaning and want to drive sort of improved edge. Are the contractors looking out for these improved products? Do you give them the space to let them trial these improved products? The outcome is that the construction industry gets better. What becomes best practice in Crossrail becomes on HS2 normal practice. And again, the construction industry as a whole becomes a far more appealing industry to be in. And that's really the thrust of some of this innovation. And it's funny, some of the best ideas are the simplest. The best ideas, the simplest ones are the ones worst. The ones worth listening to. Another way to drive improvement is to probably reflect on the fact that we're not perfect. We certainly do surveys in Crossrail. I've got some surveys going on the site level with the contractors. So challenging how the leadership is performing, challenging how we as managers, leaders, interact, get a message across, and so forth. Feedback is important. It can be slightly tricky to take at times if the feedback is harsh. It's worth knowing. If feedback again is crucial through. All this is anonymous. But it's interesting seeing about level of engagement, wanting to work within Crossrail, wanting to be part of the success story and all that. You're going to have a combination of people where you have, this runs in terms of, we had the loyal advocates and the people putting in discretionary effort. If you ask a favour with short notice, they deliver, and you think, oh, they're a joy to have. But your team won't be made up of them all. You might get 10% of them. And they're the ones you nurture, encourage, sit stretches, promote. You'll have some middle of the roads where they'll do the work, but you have to give them more time. It's the ones at the bottom where they aren't motivated. And really these surveys are trying to find out what's the proportion of those. You're always going to have them, I hate to say it. It's the nature of having a sort of a team. To expect that, but it's knowing that you've got a smaller proportion of those as possible. Again, I just ask you to think about that as a concept. It's a cultural point as well. How you sort of minimise these type of people. How do you incentivise? How do you inspire some of the people who may otherwise just pitch up, accept to be paid, do an average job, move on to the next project? It's a tricky question. Lastly, I kind of wanted to finish on positive notes. Celebrate success. Most of these projects we've got are 4 years. 4 years is a long time. You have a number of milestones. I imagine a lot was spoken about setting milestones to sort of drive performance. It's an accumulation of milestones to get to the end game. Don't forget about celebrating these milestones. We've done great in some respects. Middle of the road in some others. One of the areas where we've done very well is in apprenticeships. So there's been a couple of celebrations, one at the 400, but now went over 500 again celebrated. As a project manager, to keep the culture positive, happy, thinking forward, reflect on celebrating the successes, work towards from one success to the other. Success has to be pitched at the right level. These guys are all working on our tunnel boring machines, and they're miners working on the ground for quite a long part of the day. They're shift workers, a highly experienced bunch of people. Predominantly, a lot of them from Ireland, a lot of them from Eastern Europe. But they put in hard shifts. And when you see photographs like that, you think, yeah, you've got the right people. You can't have a picture of Simon and myself just shaking a hand. That misses the point. It's all about embracing everybody, and especially the right people who deserve the credit. There was one last point on that. The reaching out into the community. There's this point here about open house, site tours, lunch and learns. There's reputational management is a key thing for a project manager. Reaching out, inviting the community in. I had a site at North Woolwich. It's just a constructional site without any station. So the local residents used to dislike us. And they got frustrated with constructional traffic, they got frustrated with noise, which was in limits. We're all working within our act and the constraints, but clearly it's something they didn't have before, and they're not getting any end benefit. As soon as you invite a stakeholder into the project, we start to realise, there's more to it, Crossrail, than just simply the external holdings. It's a really good way of managing tricky stakeholders, tricky communities. With the open houses, we've embraced them in work and treat. And I guess that takes us on to the final slide, which is a bit of summing up. The title of Managing Mega Projects is a wide-reaching one, but I kind of tried to say it's really about a culture. It's about keeping people tied to the dream, selling the dream, and then working towards that end point. That's pretty much some of the key messages I was wanting to get out.
Thanks very much, Neil. Thank you. Just like to show just as a finishing note, do you have any questions? I thought so.
Brilliant.
Being a project manager for such huge projects, so what do you think, you talked about the essential qualities of a project manager, so are they more inclined towards the technical side of the education, or do you think that the softer skills or the interpersonal skills can play a role, a far better role in project management?
Yes. I believe anybody can be a project manager. I'm not an engineer. I've actually got 2 law degrees. But I don't know, I've just seen there's the what, which is all about the product, the railway, and it's about the how, which is how you interact, get your message across. I don't know, maybe for some reason, I think as a project manager, you need to know what the what is, but in terms of getting your message across, it's all about the how. So I believe anybody can be a project manager. It shouldn't just be, I have to rely heavily on engineering, but that's the way it is.
I know there's been a bit of a key theme throughout today about lessons learned and learning legacy. I'm just wondering how you encourage your project managers to learn from each other.
Yes, project managers are show-offs, and we have regular, I'm part of the stations team, so there's about 8 or 10 project managers that sit in there, and each of the projects are different. They're far on in some aspects and just start in other aspects. And I'm, for example, quite far on in the MEP fit-out, so I'm here, well,